Okay, good day. I am Quichelyn and we are from Group 6. And for today's learning podcast, me and my group will share with you the African history. So, the coverage of this program is first, of course, the African introduction or introduction to Africa, then the Aksum Kingdom, next is Golden Age, and lastly is the foreign influences. If you don't know history, then you don't know anything. That is said by Michael Crichton. This is right because if you do not know about the history, you know anything about nothing. As we know, history helps us to decode the present time and understand the world. Now, let us start in Africa Introduction to History. As we know that the Africa is the second largest continent after Asia, it is covering about 1/5 of the total land surface of Earth. And the continent is bounded on the west by the Atlantic Ocean, on the north by the Mediterranean Sea, and on the east by the Red Sea and the Indian Ocean. And of course, at the south by the mingling waters of the Atlantic and Indian Ocean. The recorded history of early civilization began in Egypt and later spread to Nubia, the Maghreb, and the Horn of Africa. Islam spread throughout Africa during the Middle Ages and remains to be the dominant religion in northern Africa today. So during the late 15th century, Europeans and Arabs took slaves from parts of Africa, such as Eritrea, Burundi, Central African Republic, and many more, and then shipped them overseas to use in a slave trade. Over the 19th and early 20th century, the European colonization of Africa rapidly developed until after the Second World War, where Europe was weakened and decolonization began to take place. And later, we will tackle a lot more about the history of Africa.
Hello, good day everyone. My name is Novem Suico and I'm here with Jedalyn Ciano to discuss, elaborate, and have some learning about Aksum for youth.
Thank you, Ate Novem. So we are here to give you a glimpse about Aksum period, and the rest period will be discussed by my group mates. They are Miss Allyza Fano, Miss Maria Joy Acebuche, Miss Quichelyn Gimao, and Miss Beverly Sarentas.
So partners, since we are going to discuss Aksum for youth, did you know that Aksum period was located in the northern edge of the highland zone of the Red Sea coast? Just above the Horn of Africa. It was founded in the 1st century Common Era, flourished from the 3rd to 6th century Common Era, and then survived as much smaller political entity into the 8th century Common Era. And the name Aksum or Aksum, as it is sometimes referred to, may derive from a combination of two words from local languages. The Agu word for water and the GS word for official shum. The water reference is probably due to the presence of large ancient rock cisterns in the area of the capital at Aksum.
Well, partners, since you have mentioned that Aksum period is located just above the Horn of Africa, additionally, it is the East Africa was the region that birthed one of the mightiest of African civilization, which is the Aksum Empire. As its height is the 3rd century Common Era, some ancient writers deem it as one of the 4 great powers of the world alongside the Rome, Persia, and China.
You know what, partner? I believe the most important event that happened in Aksum is that for how many years? Aksum was just a tiny settlement in the northern horn and then slowly acquiring more land and wealth from trade. Then in 30 before Common Era, something decisive happened. Yes, because the Romans under Augustus conquered and annexed Egypt. Aksum was brought into contact with the Roman world in the Mediterranean. Trade routes shifted from the Persian Gulf and overland Asian routes more to the Red Sea. Aksum soon became a hub of overseas trade between the vast Roman Empire and the states of India. It grew as a prosperous connection for the transmissions of trade goods and collective learning across the entire supercontinent of Afro-Eurasia.
Wow, and now from very tiny settlement, and then now they became a trading route. Becoming a mercantile power can transform a small state into a powerful kingdom very quickly. Aksum managed trade between India and the Mediterranean in ivory, gold, emeralds, silk, spices, agricultural products, salt, exotic animals, manufactured goods, and much more. In the first century Common Era, Aksum flourished. They could afford to build a powerful navy to patrol the Red Sea and protect their trade routes.
What a great period in Aksum, right, partner? In a span of years, they grow and become powerful. Well, partner, based on my thorough reading, the Aksum civilizations continued to grow in complexity. Aksum's capital should grow. It was a lost collection of impressive buildings and burial grounds. The town grows so rapidly that there seems to have been no master plan for the city's layout, or the designation of city walls for where the city would stop growing. Aksum built many grand monuments, and the wealthiest citizens were buried in elaborate tombs marked by the huge stone pillars, called stelae, with intricate carvings upon them. Aksum had a division of labor, bureaucrats, priests, soldiers, merchants, and artisans.
A very powerful indeed partner. You know what, partner? I also read about the kingdom of Aksum, and I have found out that their language used is Greek, and it has become one of their way to introduce the Christianity through the written script. In the 4th century Common Era, Aksum formally adopted Christianity as its state religion, linking it culturally to the Roman Empire, which had also officially made Christianity its state religion.
Speaking of Christianity, did you know that their king in Aksum reached its peak under the leadership of King Isana? Yes, I believe this king is truly a genius one, right, partner? King Isana ruled from around 325 Common Era to 360 Common Era. During this time, Aksum expanded its territory and became a major trade center. It was under King Isana that Aksum conquered the kingdom of Kosh, destroying the city of Meroe. King Isana also converted to Christianity. He was a devout Christian, and Christianity became the major religion of the kingdom.
Wow, you read thoroughly. Thank you for that wonderful information, partner. Well, the king had been converted by Frumentius, a former Syrian captive who was made bishop of Aksum. On his return, Frumentius had promptly baptized King Isana, who then declared Aksum a Christian state, followed by the king's active converting of the Aksumites. And Aksum embraced the Orthodox tradition of Christianity in the 4th century, 340 to 356 Common Era. Again, it is under the rule of King Isana.
I know that. Thank you, partner, and thank you for a very thorough and very knowledgeable discussions with you. And I'm very thankful for this wonderful talk with you.
I am very grateful also with your prepared and insightful discussion. And now, we are giving and guesting Miss Fano and Miss Acebuche. Happy listening, everyone. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your informative sharings, Miss Shano and Miss Suiko. But anyway, hello everyone, hello listeners or viewers. Welcome to our learning podcast. Let me introduce ourselves first, together with my partner. I am Allyza Fano. I believe we are about to share some of our understanding and learnings about the golden age period or the golden age of Africa. How about Miss Acebuche? Kindly introduce yourself, Miss Acebuche.
Hello, my name is Maria Joy Acebuche, and I'm one of the hosts in this podcast, and also back to you, Miss Fano.
Okay, so thank you, Miss Acebuche. Um, I am the first speaker. So today, in our little sharings about the golden age of Africa and their literature during those times, these are the questions that we will ponder during our sharing sessions. Okay, so as you can see on the screen, number one there is the definition of golden age. When was the golden age in Africa started and ended? What happened during the golden age in Africa? The three empires in golden age, and for the last, the literature in the golden age of Africa. So I hope that you will listen attentively as we dive in answering those questions that I mentioned. So when it comes to the golden age of Africa, let me define first what is golden age. So according to Merriam-Webster or Merriam-Webster, whatever you like, it is a period of great happiness, prosperity, and achievement of a country. It is a pastime of peace of a country. But since our focus is in Africa, so we have to discuss the golden age of Africa, right, Miss Asibuche?
Yes, partner.
Okay, so in a period of Africa's medieval golden age during the Middle Ages, while Europe fought, traded, explored, and evolved, Africa was a continent in darkness. So during the 200-year period between uh, 1301 and 1500, the main civilizations and kingdoms in Africa were the Mali Empire, Kingdom of Congo, Benin Kingdom, Great Zimbabwe, Ethiopian Empire, Kilwa Sultanate, and the Ahuran Sultanate. So these kingdoms flourished in the first part of this period, especially the Mali Empire, which saw a cultural flowering within its empire centered on the University of Timbuktu. By the way, Timbuktu will further explain later, okay? Okay, so it all started in trans-Saharan trade. So the years between 1100s and 1600s were known as the golden age of trade when West African gold was in high demand. This led to an increase in the need and use for trade routes. From 1300, the trans-Saharan trade routes were used for trade, travel, and scholarship. Much of what scholars know of the trans-Saharan trade routes comes from the historical writings of Muslim scholars such as Ibn Battuta and Leo Africanus, who both crossed the Sahara Desert in the 14th and 15th centuries. So these literary narratives combined with archaeological data that provide much insight into 14th century trade. But we will no longer dwell with its geographical complex information or details. But by the end of the 10th century, Islam had spread to many of the northern and western African empires. By the 14th century, Empires such as Ghana and Mali had strong ties with the Muslim world, and many of their most prominent leaders practiced the Muslim faith. So Mali's most famous ruler, Mansa Musa, traveled across the trans-Saharan trade routes on his pilgrimage to Mecca in 1325. Because Islam became so prominent in North and West Africa, many of the trade routes and caravan networks were controlled by Muslim nations. In the 14th century, prominent trade and travel routes had been firmly established. So here are the three Golden Age empires, the Ghana, Mali, and Songhai. So this connection integrated them into the Mediterranean world and its trade connections with the other classical civilizations. Now, the first empire of the Golden Age of Africa will further explained by Miss Acebuche. Miss Acebuche.
Thank you for that, Miss Fano. Okay, let's proceed to the next topic. Okay, the first golden empire is Ghana. The vision of the Iron Age state in Ghana are no direction, no direct connection or geographic overlap with the modern nation of Ghana that is gained its independence from Britain in 1957. And also, trans-Saharan trade, which was mentioned by Ms. Fano a while ago, was revolutionized between the 3rd and 5th century when the Berber people introduced the camel of the region. The traders from the Ghana area form the link between the important resources of the salt from the northern part of Africa and the golden part of the sub-Saharan region. And also, this connection integrated them into Mediterranean world and its trade connection with the other. And also, it's now classical civilization. And their control of trans-Saharan gold trade allowed them to fund a large army and rise to empire status. And also after the 7th century, their trading partners to the north were Muslim, or Islam was the first only tolerated, but by the 11th century, it seems that the Ghana kings converted. And also, however, this is not lead to the wider acceptance of Islam by the population. And also, King seems to have understood the economic benefits of tolerating Islam since it put them on a good terms with their trading partners to the north. The ruling kingdoms of Ghana were from the Soninke. The Soninke family were power up and dependent on their claim that the Soninke king personally had rights over all gold nuggets, as opposite to the gold dust. This become an automatic form of taxation. Wait, I'm sorry for that taxation, which helped them stay in power. And now, Ms. Fano will further explain the Mali Empire.
Okay, thank you for that, partner. That's a good point and information about the first empire. Now I will be expounding the Mali Empire as one of the empires of the Golden Age of Africa also. So wait, okay. So in the early 1200s, the chief of the Malinke people challenged the authority of the ruling Soninke family. The king Sundiata triumphed over the Soninke people and established the most legendary West African empire of all, and it was Mali. The story of Sundiata, also called the Lion Prince, is the most famous epic from Africa, forming a rich literary tradition in the same way that Homer did for the Greeks and the legend of King Arthur did for the English. This story forms a good example for the syncretic nature of African religion. Sundiata is described as a devout Muslim, but it's still concerned with pleasing the traditional spirits as well. The empire of Mali stretched for thousands of miles from the West Atlantic coast of Africa across the sub-Saharan savanna. The empire was more developed and oversaw much more extensive agriculture than Ghana did. It was ruled by kings called Mansas. Just a little knowledge about King Mansa Musa. He was known for being the richest man in history. He took the throne from 1312 to 1337 and was the son of Sundiata. The 25-year reign was known as the Golden Age of the Mali Empire. So King Mansa ibn Battuta, a famous Muslim traveler, they visited Mali's capital in 1352 and described the rule of these Mansas. They said that the Negroes possess some admirable qualities. They are seldom unjust and have a greater abhorrence of injustice than other people. Their mansa shows no mercy to anyone least guilty of the act of injustice. There is complete security in their country. Neither traveler nor inhabitant has anything to fear from robbers or men of violence. The most famous Mansa of the Empire of Mali was Mansa Musa. So in 1324 to 1325, he made his famous Hajj. It was a pilgrimage to Mecca, which became very famous for the display of extravagant show and brute. He took 100 camels just to carry gold, which he gave out as gifts along the way. He was served by 500 slaves. So in Cairo, Egypt, he gave away so much gold that the resulting surplus caused its devaluation there. This famous pilgrimage was significant for two reasons. First of all, it put Mali on the map of the medieval world. Uh, Word of his wealth and extravagance spread quickly and brought attention to Mali. Secondly, it shows the more serious role of Islam in sub-Saharan Africa. This display of devotion certainly denotes a more serious attitude toward Islam than the mere toleration shown by many of Ghana's kings. And the last empire is the Songhai, which was explained by Miss Acebuche. Miss Acebuche.
Thank you, Ms. Fano. And now let's proceed to Shanghai. This empire falls under Unit 3 as the Mali kings eventually lost power in the late 14th and early 15th century. Role moved slightly east to the kingdom of Shanghai along the Niger River. The founder of this new empire was Sunni Ali, a self-proclaimed Muslim. Although many question his devotion to Islam, and it appeared that exploit the religion to centralize his own political power. And also think about the combined roles of military, religious, and political authority taught by Islam. Ali was a military conqueror whose success in part lie in his use of war boots along the Niger River. The primary opposition to Sunni Ali's role were the Muslim scholar at Timbuktu. As you see, Ali ruthlessly persecuted them when they challenged his power. And also, this Shanghai Empire was finally destroyed in 1591 by invaders from Morocco. These troops brought with them a new weapon that African could not match, like firearms, guns had arrived in Africa. And also, Timbuktu became an important trading and scholarly center in sub-Saharan Africa during the Mali and Shanghai empires. It is located on the northern bend of Nigeria River, uh, and also the southern edge of the Sahara Desert. Here is the first-hand account of Timbuktu by Aleo Africanus when he visited the city in the early uh, 1500s. And also, there are many shops of craftsmen and merchants, especially to those who weave cotton and cloth. So this place merch bring cloth from Europe. All the women of this area, except maid servant, go with their faces covered and sell all necessary kinds of food. The inhabitants of this area are very rich, so much so that the king has married both of his daughter to two rich merchants. The rich king has many articles of gold and keeps a magnificent rather and well furnished court. When he travels everywhere, he rides a camel that is led by some of his noblemen. He travels likewise when he goes into war, and his warriors ride upon horses. Attending him, he always has 3,000 horsemen and a great number of foot soldiers armed with a poisonous arrows. Here are the many doctors, judges, priests, and other educated men that are well maintained at the king's cost. Many manuscripts and books can be both here and also sold here and for more money and in any or other merchandise. In its heyday, Timbuktu rather was an important trading hub for two of African most important items of commerce, the salt and gold. The wealth of the city is invented from the quotation above. The Timbuktu also become an important city from Islamic scholarship. It's a mosque contain a library and a university where the scholar and theologians and Muslim jurists study. Thus, the most important trade in Timbuktu was in books. And now, Miss Fano, how about the literature in the Golden Age of Africa? Did you find any literature in the Golden Age of Africa? Miss Fano?
Yes, thank you for that, partner. Now, here are the literature in the golden age of Africa that we have gathered. I believe that this is not only the literature in the golden age of Africa, but this is only the literature that I found that I know that is legit or true. So, anyways, here are those. So, number one is the Proverbs from Madagascar. So, it is a series of proverbs, like sayings from Africa during the Golden Age. So let me read it, okay? Proverbs from Madagascar tend towards pottery explanations. For example, an eel that was not caught is as big as your thigh. This means that people will exaggerate to other people about the things they do. The proverbs probably tend towards water because Madagascar is an island. So here are the other proverbs from Madagascar that I have gathered. So number one is, indecision is like the stepchild. If he doesn't wash his hands, he is called dirty. If he does, he is wasting the water. So the interpretation, according to the website, is if you don't make the right decisions at the right time, you will always be blamed for the outcome of your actions or inactions. And then the other one is, the end of an ox is beef and the end of a lie is grief. And then the other one is don't kick a sleeping dog. Then number 4, don't be so much in love that you can tell when the rain comes. And then sorrow is like a precious treasure shown only to friends. Then number 6, love is like young rice transplanted, still it grows. And then for the number 7, an eel that was not caught is as big as your thigh. Just like what I have mentioned, I think it is repeated. But anyway, number 8, the dog's bark is not might but fright. And then marriage is not a fast knot but a sleep knot. And then number 10, life is a shadow and a mist. It passes quickly by and is no more. And then the other 3 proverb is don't take another mouthful before you have swallowed what is already in your mouth. And then cross the river in a crowd and then the crocodile won't eat you. And then for the last, let your love be like the misty rain coming softly but flooding the river. So what do you guys think? What is the interpretation for that? But anyways, let us proceed to the other literature that I have found. It is the Ananu the spider. So let me read it first. So in the beginning, no stories were told about Ananu the spider. Ananu did not like this, so he went to God and said, I want the stories they tell of you to be told of me. God laughed and said, Ananu, are you sure? This is a great responsibility. Are you worthy of it? And then Ananu replied, yes, I am. If you are, then you must complete 3 trials. So I think if I'm not mistaken, it has three trials. But the story Ananu the spider demonstrates that African literature values the archetypical trickster. It also shows that their culture needs cunning because the land that they live in is filled with deadly animals. Africa actually had no written word for the longest time. Their histories and stories were told by oral historians called griots. African stories were extremely reliant upon tones to convey meaning as was their language. Furthermore, West African folktales, Ananu the spider is West African folktales. Ananu means spider, and Ga is a language, means a language spoken in Ghana. So from generation to generation, folktales illuminate the stories about the spider's intelligence and resourcefulness. And that's about it for our part. I hope you understand everything about we have discussed in the golden age of Africa. Thank you for listening. Thank you for listening. How about Miss Gimao and Miss Sarentas? What do you guys know about African history and their literature?
Okay. So, good day, everyone. My name is Beverly, but you can call me Bev. And welcome to the last part of the African history. The foreign influences came in the 4th century. Together with Quich, who will share the idea about what happened during this century. Quich?
Thank you, Bev. Hi, hello. I am Quich, and I will answer some questions that Bev will ask me about the foreign influences in Africa. And I think this should only be 4 questions, right, Bev?
Yes, you're right. I'll begin. So, during the 4th century, this is one religion who take control of the northern coast of Africa, and this empire is very huge. What is it, Rich?
Oh, that part? Mm, During the 4th century, as everyone knows, that the Roman Empire is one of the outstanding empire during that time. There is one person named Gaius Sempronius Gracchus to attempt to colonize the Africa because of their interest of the Roman farmers as well the Roman investors. However, on the 1st century, which name is Augustus, successfully quieting of hostile nomadic movements in the area, created a condition that led the Africa to 4 centuries of prosperity. Between the 1st to 3rd centuries after that, or AD, there is a business trading happening. They are building private estate and started to grow, and even the religion, which is the Christianity, as the Roman citizenship, extended their whole empire to Africa. Amazing, isn't it? Because you know there are 100 bishops that they're created and they're produced. I'm so sorry, such as luminaries as the Christian Church Fathers Tertullian, Cyprian, and Saint Augustine of Hippo.
Yeah, that is so many. Well, thank you for that, Mitch. The next question is, in 700 AD, there is also a religion that once again have entered in Africa. What is it? Which?
Oh, that one religion is, or from the religion of Muhammad, wherein it was also introduced in Africa and as well its Arabic system. And if you notice that until the recent time, there is a division of system of belief in Africa. There is a Christianity as well Muslim. On the eastern part of the Africa, we're largely Muslim, and the rest of the part are Christianity. And that's all.
Thank you for that specific and easy to understand answer, Twitch. So again, the two religions that was introduced largely to Africa was Christianity by Roman Empire and Islam Muslim by Muhammad. Third question is, since we are talking about the foreign influences, let us proceed to 18th, the 18,000 as the traditional African nations were split apart by European. What is the two system that range chaos? Which?
Okay. Well, the answer for that question is the two things that reigned into chaos is the social and the political chaos in Africa. Well, during this time, the administration in Africa, of course, they developed time to time. They developed their governments, institutions, business, schools, and etc. But the Northern Africa experienced the colonization from Europe. So during this time, the 1800s, as you said, the European didn't know the Africa before. And because they are so curious about the businesses, and they found out that Africa, they live in near the Africa, the European found out these Africans, and the European slave trade the Africans in America, which is the most profitable business to change gold and local products such as sugar and coffee. However, in 1884, a conference is held in Berlin to regulate the colonization. The king of Belgium, named King Leopold II, gets a personal possession of a large and little known of the heart of the continent, Africa. So the European nations, boosted by their superior military technology, they engage in race for control of the large possible territory at the expense of kingdoms and empire. So in the most cases, sadly, the land Africa is stolen and distributed to European settlers.
That is the detailed information we got, Twitch.
Yes, that is also one of the important part of the foreign influence history in Africa, because there's a slave happening, ibebenta pa sila sa Amerika, kaya ayun, isa talaga siya sa pinaka-importante na part of history ng Africa.
Okay, thank you for that. Since the Africa experienced slavery and claiming their countries by other nations, did they have independence? How that happened, Twitch?
Oh, okay. So as we know, right, that everyone deserves freedom. So in the middle of 1900s, the Africa marked as the independence and rebirth of traditional cultures written in African language. Moreover, the Britain supports the independence of Sudan to prevent the country coming under the Egyptian control. So some European country like France, amid a war in Algeria, recognizes the independence of Morocco and Tunisia to avoid the spread of violence. And in 1960, this is a good part, because in the 1960, a new wave of colonies gaining independence ends these projects, and that is how the Africa got their independence little by little until gets their freedom. And I think that's it.
Wow, thank you for your time, Twitch. Hope to get a time for you again to talk about African history. Bye.
Bye. Thank you, Bev.
Thank you, Twitch.
So yun, ate, okay na tayo. Ipasa mo na lang po sa akin yan. Okay na tayo.
Kinabahan ako, Char. Wait
Okay.
lang. Isi-save ko to, di ba? Wait.
Opo. Tapos, isend mo na lang po sa akin sa G Drive.
Diba,
I-G-Drive mo na lang.
Parang automatic ata nagsisave to, di ba?
Opo. Tapos, isend mo na lang sa akin yung buong meeting natin.